Hi guys, I'm here with Frankie Ward, the interviewer for current IEM Katowice. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I know that you mostly work around Csgo, but the first time I saw you was during LEC. How hard it is to actually work on different, esports titles?
It takes a lot of time. I think the LEC was a really good experience because I'd just done 3 weeks in Katowice for the major, and that was not knackering. It was an incredible emotional experience, and then I had 1 day in London, and then I went to Berlin. But the great thing about the LEC is the production is just so great. It's a studio weekly production, so you have stats teams, and I had so much support. I went and had essentially almost a week in the office before we did the show. But League of Legends is why I got into esports in the first place, so it was really nice to be part of it officially. It was great. I hope to go back one day.
Okay, so following the question, you do interviews with a lot of different people, with a lot of different, personalities, and I bet that adaptability is a key part to that. So how do you adapt so quick, and how important it is for an interviewer?
So I'm I guess what you call an empath. So what I do is I absorb emotions. So I tend to try and match the level that the player is on. So I don't tend to, I'm not going to try and hype them up too much unless they're feeling that hype. But if you're interviewing Simple after he's played the way he did in the final or semi-final against Astralis yesterday, then hey, you're going to have a really excitable person to talk to. So that's really nice. It made exit interviews really hard for me at first because I've sometimes got a player who's very emotional and I just want to protect them. So yeah, that can be hard. But yeah, I just go with the flow of the player, really, because I go in obviously preparing what I want to say or ideas of what I want to say, but I'm very flexible when I'm in the interview. So if they say something I want to know more about, I'd rather know more about that and cut one of my questions. Like, it's much more about having a conversation than me just firing. It's always got to be a back and forth.
So yeah, actually the tables have turned. I'm doing a lot of commentary because usually I'm just a commentator, and now I get to interview you, so trying to chase after the master. But yeah, before you got into esports, I know you worked in television on BBC, correct me if I'm wrong?
Yes. So I didn't do BBC television production, although there was a bit of crossover. I mostly did digital. So that's how I discovered League of Legends, was because I was doing online coverage of the World's quarterfinals in 2015 at Wembley. So that's how I found esports. But before that as well, I was a radio presenter and producer very briefly. But most of my life, or working life, I was doing online. So making videos or like writing, building websites.
Okay, we are covering esports in TV, but what are the differences between working in esports and working for the normal, usual TV?
So I think that esports, most of the things I do are big events like this. So you're literally setting up in a remote location and broadcasting for a week, and you have so much technical infrastructure because you're creating a LAN, you're creating a broadcast. There could be multiple languages. So for example, right here in the Spodek, we've got a Polish team. We are doing the Polish language broadcast. We have the English language broadcast, and then I know TV2, the Norwegian TV2 station, have got their own desk as well. And then you've got various publications who'll be taking interviews as well from the press side. So you have all of these elements, whereas with a typical TV show, that's going to be a studio, and that's going to be a contained environment that's there on a regular basis. So there's huge differences in that sense. At the end of the day, though, we're all storytellers, and I think the reason that when I started hosting, I started doing big events like this relatively quickly was because I had background as a producer. Like, my last job before I was full-time as a host was producing for Twitch, so I was used to these environments, and I was very good at researching for the hosts that I was working with, so now I research for myself.
Mm-hmm. So following up with your host job, I have worked with quite a few hosts throughout my career, and I noticed that the ability to pull someone's tongue, I mean, to try to get as much words from him as you can possibly do, is really important. And do you agree? Do you and how do you find this ability in yourself?
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to make people open up, and sometimes that's the way you phrase a question. So when I first did the major last year, Carmack, who you've spoken to from ESL, he noticed that in the first day or two I was putting too much context into my questions. My questions were way too long. He asked me to make it more dynamic, and that for me like changed everything. So I will try and ask a question as quickly as I can. If I don't need to put context into it, I won't. So, you know, one of my favorite interviews is from the major last year was Simple in the second stage. So in the challenges, and then you have last stage is champions. I can't remember the middle stage off the top of my head because it's been a very long week. But with that interview, when you watch it back, I hardly say anything at all. I really don't. But the thing with that interview was Navi hadn't boot camped really. They'd had less than a week of practice before the major. And so it was important for me to get that out of him. But I wanted him to tell me rather than me telling him.
So, David, I know you wish you could be here, but learn from the best. David is our host. He sometimes tends to, you know, like phrase the question and actually just answer himself. But I've noticed that lately you have been streaming a little bit and getting into CSGO. So how is the overall experience after so long time of CSGO being, you know, playable?
So, I've been playing Counter-Strike on and off for a while, but in the last 6 months or so I've tried to play it more regularly because there's been an off season, so I've been able to play and stream more. I've been streaming for years, but Counter-Strike is now my main game. If I don't play Counter-Strike, then people complain. It's great. It's frustrating when you have people in your Twitch chat backseat gaming you, like when people tell me, pull the mouse down, buy Kevlar, etc. I'm like, I know what recoil control is and I know about Kevlar, thank you very much. It's just sometimes maybe I don't want to buy it. Maybe I do want to be a glass cannon, or, you know, I'm doing a pistol round and I'd rather buy a Molly because, yeah, I don't know how this round's going to go. So, yeah, it's an interesting experience, but I have a lovely community, and I think the lovely thing about streaming on Twitch is it's nice to catch up with people. There's some really supportive people there. I play Pop Flash, so I set up games with people on my Twitch channel as well as doing matchmaking, because matchmaking is very frustrating at times. It's rewarding at times, and it's really frustrating at others. So it's nice to have that literally a channel of people I can just switch on, and then I have people I can play with.
Okay, so for an interviewer, how important is the research, and how often do you play it by ear during the interviews?
Really important with the research, and I always watch the matches. Yeah, it's really important. I have a 30-something page document going into this. I know all the teams very well, but it's map pools, looking at recent results. If it's a new team, then I'm going to be looking at their weapon stats so I can see who the AWPer is, all those kinds of things, who their star player is, yeah, all those kinds of things. That's really, really important. I always have to have pictures of the players because I've not met a team before. Then I want to be able to meet them before the tournament gets underway, because I'm also trying to gauge what they're like, how they're going to be with me on camera, how good their English is, and all those kinds of things. So there's so many different things to consider when coming into an event like this, and I read a lot of interviews during the event as well. Other people's interviews are really useful. When I do use information from them, I try and credit them. So you might notice sometimes I refer to HLTV, for example, during an interview, and that's something I feel like I should do, because yeah, I've used a source, so I should credit that source.
Okay, so you just told me that you always watch the games. Right now, the first map, I believe, is taking place. So to wrap it up, I've noticed that always, or usually after you are finished with an interview, you tell the person that you have interviewed that thank you very much, you made my job really easy, and it's all thanks to you. So is it like a trademark for you?
What, that I say thank you? Yeah, I don't know. I think you should just thank your interviewees because they spent time with you, especially when it's something like an exit interview. I'm very privileged that I get to talk to these players. Talking to people like me is part of their job, but you know, when someone shares some information with you, then that's a real privilege. And I have followed players in Counter-Strike for over a year now, and some of them are now my friends. and I want the best for everyone. So there are definitely some matches that are more heartbreaking for me than others. But it's so exciting to see things like G2 today, Hunter and Nexa, seeing them on that big stage, and they are going to be incredible. I can't wait to see it.
So to put your advice into work, thank you very much for taking your time to talk with us. I know how busy you are, and we really appreciate it. This was Frankie Ward, and thank you for watching, guys. See you later.